Alright, welcome back to the Dohyo. Today we're going to be talking about the 2020 Hatsu Basho. My predictions, what actually happened, and what we all think of it. Soft throw!
Throw the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
So those of you who watched the last video about Tokushoryu realize that one ran a little bit longer than I expected to. I still have a lot of thoughts about the 2020 Hatsu Basho, so here we go. I think the big story of the Basho ended up being that the whole Sanyaku sort of collectively didn't do anything, and then a lot of the middle to lower Megashira rankers just charged forward in this Basho. Everyone keeps saying Sumo is in a transitional period. This Basho showed more than any other Basho I've ever seen that right now rank really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. Now when I say the Sanyaku was sort of really rough, I'm talking about, of course, the Yokozuna, both of whom were absent. Takayasu, who was no longer at Ozeki and at Sekiwake and failed to qualify back up to Ozeki. Goeido did not clear Katabon and is going to retire. Oh my! I thought this was a tournament for Asanoyama and Takakeisho to really show who's boss and which one of those two was going to try to be the most dominant person in Sumo once everyone else retires. Didn't quite work out that way.
What was wrong?
So this is a segment called Because J-Wags Was Wrong. And J-Wags was wrong about so many things in life, but specifically about Sumo, what I was wrong about was these two wrestlers who I thought had a very specific ceiling, and now I believe that I was wrong about how high their ceiling is. Number one, Enho. Now, I believe Enho is an excellent technical Rikishi, and I love watching him fight. I just think his body is going to limit him. I just wasn't sure he was ever going to get as high as he has already. But the guy just keeps getting Kachikoshi. That's what the guy does. I do think we are at the point right now where lower Sanyaku is going to be the ceiling. It'd be really exciting if I were wrong about that and he ended up making Ozeki or Yokozuna. That would be so cool. Don't think it's going to happen. Enho by himself can't really win matches. What he does is he has to wait for his opponent to make a bit of a tiny mistake, and then he can go in and exploit that mistake. If you look at the end of the Basho, you'll see that Enho starts to lose those last few matches. Number one, I think because he's running out of energy, because he constantly has to fight people who are twice his size. No other wrestler has to really do that, especially not as high-ranked as he is. And the other thing is that you notice, I think it was Daisho, and you just figured out that if you can keep him at distance, just keep him at distance and don't let him grab onto the hand, don't let him grab onto the Mawashi, and spin you or get you off balance, if you could just keep him at distance, if you land one really good thrust right here, Enho does not have enough mass to stay there. And for that reason, I do not think Ozeki will ever be in the cards. I don't think double-digit wins in the Sanyaku regularly is something that he can do. But I do think his ceiling is now lower Sanyaku.
What was wrong?
Shodai. Alright, now Shodai is a very fascinating Rikishi for me. When I started watching Sumo, Shodai was new and exciting, and he was just shooting up the ranks, and he made Sekiwake in like less than a year after making Makuuchi, and everyone's like, ah, Shodai, yeah! And then I kept watching, and then he just sort of plateaued and didn't really improve in either direction, just sort of stayed in mid-Megashira for a while. Something has happened. Now, 3 tournaments ago, he ended up getting like a 3-12 and dropping all the way down to Megashira 10. Now, something has changed. Shodai has now flipped a switch. He's now like boss-level Shodai and got 13 wins last tournament and 11 before that. And he is shooting his way up, and I think he's probably going to be Sanyaku this next tournament. If not, I don't know who else is going to be ahead of him. But Shodai has shown a real ability to find another gear. His Tachiai, while still very high, is now landing in a different way. It's now, instead of Shodai just bouncing off of people and sort of then having to improvise, I watched the whole Basho. His wins in the last Basho were not cheap wins, or as Tachiai might call it, cartoon sumo. It also doesn't help that, like, you see, like, all these very intense, focused Rikishi, like Takakeisho and Hako, just like, we're very focused about this stuff, and Shodai just feels sort of like, hey, what's up, we're doing sumo. But I think that might be what has changed. Your body doesn't fundamentally change all that much, and your technique, once you hit a certain point, can't change that much, but what can change is attitude. And if Shodai has found a new gear in his attitude, I think he could make an Ozeki run. Shodai may be at the point where he has now built his own brand of sumo into something that is going to be highly effective and highly entertaining from here on out. So, Shodai, J-Wags was wrong.
J-Wax was wrong.
Alright, now I made my very, very bold predictions. It's the time for truth. How did I do? Well, the first prediction I made was that the winner of the Asanoyama Hakuho match would win the Yusho. Now, technically, there was no Asanoyama Hakuho match. But, yeah, neither of those gentlemen ended up winning. So, wrong about that one. But everyone else was wrong. Prediction number 2, Ikioi would have 5+ wraps on his body on the last day of the tournament, which he would be fighting in. And I was correct about that. By my count, if you count individual finger wraps, he had over a dozen wraps. And even not counting that, he had 7. My third and fourth were about the Ozeki and Ozeki Wakes that we were dealing with. I was correct that Takayasu did not make it. I did think Goedo was going to clear Kataban one more time and then start the gentle path down. We were all surprised to find out. Goedo did not in fact clear Kataban, and rather than take the demotion to Sekiwake, he retired. Yeah, let's just tip of the cap here to Goedo and say, like, hey, you fought well, old warrior. And even though I didn't always enjoy your henkas, I always enjoyed that you went out there and were trying to win. Here's something I'd like to start doing. It's something I'd like to call the Amanishiki Memorial Award, named after Amanishiki, who's not dead. He's just retired. He just kept fighting and just kept getting wins, and he stayed in the top division longer than anyone else in Makuuchi history. So, this is an award for those who could have gone Kyujo, who could have dropped out, who could have stopped fighting, but stuck around and ended up having a pretty decent tournament. With Tachiai's permission, I'd like to call it Uncle Sumo's Attaboys. The first one goes to Onosho. Now, Onosho is a young guy who's coming back from an injury about a year and a half ago. People forget this, so I'm going to bring it up every time I talk about Onosho. Onosho and Takakeisho were rivals in high school, and they kept fighting all the way up the Bansuke, and Onosho made Sanyaku first. And then he got hurt, and he has still not figured out the best way to fight yet with his new body, specifically his knees. If you go through a lot of Onosho's matches in the last year, if he has lost that match, it is likely because he has pitched forward. And the thing I enjoyed about this tournament is even though he went 0-4 at the top, and you're going to see this all over the place, he just keeps getting slapped on his face. He managed to turn that all around and go from 0-4 to 9-6. So for that, attaboy! Number 2, one of my absolute favorite Rikishis, and I'm just so glad we got to see him again. We're going to get to see him for another couple. Ikioi. He's never been the best, but he's just trying every single time. And he's got so many raps, and he's so hurt. And he seems to have a really cool life outside of sumo with his, like, cool golfer wife and like doing other things, and it's just he doesn't have to do sumo, but he really loves the sumo and he wants to come back and do it. Ikioi started 2-6 and ended up finishing Kachikoshi 8-7. Attaboy, Ikioi. Alright, number 3, Daisho. Now Daisho did not have a great tournament, I would say objectively speaking. But right now he's still just surviving at the top of the Megashira bottom of the Sanyaku ranks, and he's just living there. And he's learning and he's figuring his stuff out. He went from 3-8 to 7-8. Didn't quite get the Kachikoshi, but he finished strong with 4 straight wins. Daisho, keep it up. Attaboy. We have all of these older wrestlers way up here who are ranked very, very high, but they haven't cleared the way out yet. And none of the people down here, the veterans who are still hanging on, like Okuno Umi and Sadano Umi and Tochi Ozan, they're just going to hang out there for a while. And we have these younger guys who haven't quite been able to bust through and be dominant. The real question here is what's next. Someone is going to have to be in the top ranks. You need at least 2 Ozeki, 1 on each side. And in the next tournament, I believe since we only have 1 Ozeki, one of the Yokozuna, probably Kakuryu, is going to be Yokozuna Ozeki to balance out both sides. We are running out of Upper Sanyaku wrestlers right now. I don't think we're going to have either of our Yokozuna by the end of the year. I think we are probably going to have 2 new Ozeki, one of whom is not Takakeisho, and they're not Takakeisho. So who is going to take those spots? The one I was saying was going to be Asanoyama right away, but I said in the last video, Asanoyama had to get better at beating these guys. Daisho, Mitakeyumi, Takakeisho, Tamawashi. Asanoyama beat all 4 of those, but then he decided to lose to 5 more completely different people. He lost to Abi, Endo, Enho, Shodai, and Tochinoshin, which Just going by the names there in the ranks, those seem like some pretty impressive people to lose to, but he should be better than that by now. Asanoyama, I don't think is a wrestler who's going to make just a small adjustment and then just like shoot up and be super dominant. I think what we've seen from Asanoyama is that Asanoyama is going to take his time, and when he is ready and he's comfortable, he's going to keep that slow journey up the rankings. Now, the bad thing about this is that he's already 25. I just don't think he's going to have enough time if he has any major injury setbacks to make it all the way up to Yokozuna. That said, these ranks are going to be very empty very soon. Takakeisho, he's got to get more consistent. This was a tournament he absolutely could have and should have won, in my opinion. Asanoyama, you're a learning computer, but you've got to start getting a little bit better at beating those people who are hurt, a little bit better at being consistent against people who you should be able to beat every time, and not having huge losing records against guys like Daisho and Endo, who are both wrestlers you should be able to beat regularly, and if you're going to be an Ozeki or a Yokozuna, you have to be able to beat them regularly. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Dohyo on Mr. J-Wag's channel. Thanks for listening to our further thoughts on the 2020 Hatsu Basho. Make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe if you want to keep seeing these videos, and we will see you next time on the Dohyo!